Good morning, guys. In the last session, we discussed about how to implement Spring Security for login and registration. So here we are creating one service class by implementing user detail service, which is available in the Spring Security. In that there is a method called load user by user. And we configured the security here. We are configuring the password encoder also. The password encoder which is used to encrypt our password before storing in the database. And we configured authentication provider, authentication manager, and security filter chain. Authentication provider we are using to tell from where it has to fetch the user data, what is the password encoder it has to use. Authentication manager, it will provide authentication functionality required for our application. So you no need to implement the logic to check whether user credentials are valid or right. So here, in order to check whether user credentials are valid or not, we are going to use authentication manager provided authenticate method. For that authenticate method, we are giving username and password authentication token, and it is going to tell the credentials are valid or if credentials are valid, then it will be true. Otherwise, it is going to throw some exception. We are catching that exception and we are sending a meaningful response to the client. And we have the registration functionality. When user send the registration request, we are encrypting that password and storing the user record into database table. Okay. So with this, we understood how to work with user detail service and authentication manager, the Spring Security. So we know basic authentication now. We know in-memory authentication now. And we know JDBC authentication. And we know how to perform, how to use user details service in the Spring Security. User details service is one interface available. We need to implement that interface. And we are able to implement login and register with the Spring Security. We are able to implement login and registration functionality using Spring Security. Very good. Now, today we are going to understand another important security technique that Spring supports, which is OAuth 2.0. Okay. OAuth 2.0 is one of the security techniques that we are going to use in our projects. First, let's understand what is this OAuth and how we are going to use this OAuth. There is a official website available for the OAuth. Let's go to that official OAuth website and let us see what they are saying about the OAuth. OAuth 2.0 is the industry standard protocol for authorization. It focuses on the client developer simplicity while providing specific authorization flows for the web application, desktop application, mobile phones, and devices. So this is industry standard protocol for authentication and authorization. By using this OAuth also, we can secure our application. This OAuth is going to maintain some security tokens. Now let us see where this OAuth implementation is available. Now let's go to one website. Let's go to one website called Nykaa. So it is an e-commerce application, guys. So e-commerce beauty store e-commerce application is available. Nykaa application is there. In this Nykaa application, I want to purchase some product. Okay. So I want to purchase some product in the Nykaa website. In order to purchase a product in the Nykaa website, first we need to create one account in the Nykaa. So here, if you go to sign in, there is an option called sign in with your mobile or sign in with email. But my feeling is, why should I share my data with the Nykaa? Unnecessarily, they will be keep on calling me. Unnecessarily, they will keep on disturbing me with the calls and all. So that is the reason I'm not interested to create my account in the Nykaa website, but still I want to use this Nykaa to purchase one product. So that's why in the Nykaa website, you have two options here. One is you can sign into the Nykaa with your email or mobile number, or you can use your existing Google account to log in into the Nykaa. Okay, so that means without creating account in the Nika, I can use the Nika with the help of my Google account. So that's where exactly OAuth comes into picture. Now you see here, when I select Google, it is going for OAuth 2. So if I select my Google account, then with this Google account, I can log in into Nika website and I can use this Nika website. That means, so here there are two applications available. So here there are two applications available, guys. Now, so if you see, there is one application available. There is one application is available. This application is Nika website. It is an e-commerce application. Now, I'm a customer. I want to communicate with this Nika application. I'm a customer. I want to communicate with the Nika application. If you want to communicate with this Nika application, you have two options. One is you directly create the account in the Nika and use it. If you are okay to share your information with the Nika website, then no problem. You can talk to the Nika directly by providing your details. Okay. But suppose, for example, here I'm not interested to share my data. I'm not interested to share my data with the Nika. So then what I will do, I already created one account in the Google. Okay. I'm already having a Google account. I'm using it from long time. I trust Google. They will not share my data with any other company. I trust Google. They will not share my data with any company. So here, what I want to do is, I want to use this Nika with the help of the Google. So now from the Nika, I will use one option called sign in with Google. Then when I try to use the option sign in with Google, then what will happen? Google will ask the customer for the authentication. Then a customer will provide the information to the Google. Customer will give the credentials to the Google. Google will verify the credentials are valid or not. If the customer credentials are valid, Google will tell that, okay, he is my valid customer. Then Google will give the confirmation to the Nika, hey Nika, he is my valid customer. You can allow him to access your application. Then Nika application will be available for the customer. So here, when Nika and Google are exchanging the tokens, for these tokens, we are going to use this OAuth 2.0 security technique. So here we are using OAuth 2.0 security technique. Are you guys able to understand my point? Are you guys able to understand my point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here, if you want, you can directly access the application. If you want, you can directly create the account and you can access the application. But if you don't trust them, I don't trust them. I don't want to share my data with them. I don't want to share my data with them. So that is the reason I want to use my Google account in order to access this application. I want to use my Google account in order to access this application now. So here, when the customer visit Nika, there is an option called sign in with Google. Then when you use that option, you will get the Google page. Guys, now you can see here, Google and Nika applications are available. Google and Nika applications are available. And they are communicating for the user. So how the communication is happening? By using OAuth, the communication is happening. Can you look at the flow, guys? Can you guys look at the flow? Customer will go to Nika. From the Nika, he will choose Google. Then Google will send the login page for the customer. Then customer will give the credentials to the Google. Google will verify the customer credentials are valid or not. If the customer credentials are valid, then Google will send a token to the Nika. With the token, Nika will allow the user to access the application. Are you guys able to follow me? So here, this is our first step. Here, this is our first step. Then from the Nika, we are redirecting to Google. Then Google is sending login page for the customer. Customer is giving credentials to the Google. Then Google is sending token to the Nika. Then Nika is giving the response to the customer. Are you guys able to follow me? And let me show you one more website also. So if you see, there is a coding practice website available, which is called HackerRank. There is a coding practice website is available, which is called HackerRank. So if here, so many companies are conducting the system test for the people by using this HackerRank website. Now I want to do some coding practice. I want to build some logics. I want to test my skill set. For that, we can use a website called HackerRank website. So here, if you want to use this HackerRank website, again, you need to log in into the HackerRank. And for that, first you need to create the account. Go to sign up. Okay. So here you have the option to create the account. Okay. So I'm here to hire the talent. I'm here to click on. Suppose I want to practice the coding practices in the Nika. So then what they are saying here, create the account. So if you want to create your own account, then you can use your name, email, and password. Come on, guys. But can you see here? Is it mandatory to create the account directly to use it, or we can use Facebook account, Google account, LinkedIn account, and GitHub account in order to access the HackerRank? Come on, guys. So what is the option here? If you don't want to create the account directly in the HackerRank, then you can use your Facebook account, Google account, LinkedIn account, and GitHub account also. So you can use any one of your existing accounts in order to communicate with the HackerRank. For example, if I select Google, it will ask me to log in into the Google. You observe the process carefully. First, I came to HackerRank website. In the HackerRank website, we are having option to sign up, and we have option to create the account. So Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, GitHub options are available to access the application. So first, as a customer, we are coming to one application. From there, I'm selecting Google. Now, when I select Google, so there is a OAuth communication. From the HackerRank, I clicked on Google login. Then we are getting this sign-in page for the Google. Then I will provide my credentials here. I will select my email ID. Then it is asking for authorization. Click on continue. Then I have logged in into the Google with my credentials. Then once I'm able to log in into the Google, here what Google has done, Google people has provided one token. Google people has provided one token for the hacker rank. Now I will be able to use the hacker rank website without creating the account. So that is what is happening. As a customer, I am coming to the Nika website or a hacker rank website. There I am choosing sign in with the Google option. Then when I choose the sign in with Google or GitHub, then that application will send the login page for us. Then we will provide our credentials there. We will provide our credentials there. Our credentials will be validated at the Google. Here only our credentials will be validated. If our credentials are valid, if Google feel that we are Google customer, then Google will send one OAuth token to the Nika website. If that OAuth token is received from the Google, then Nika will allow you to log in into the application. Same concept is available in our Ashok IT website also. So if you see in the Ashok IT website, we have a option. In the Ashok IT website, we have a option to log in. When customer click on the login, this page pop-up is loading. If you don't have the account, you need to go to the register page. You need to provide your details and you need to create the account. You need to provide your details and you need to create the. But if you don't want to create the account directly, then you can use the option called sign in with Google. You can use one option called sign in with Google. If you click on sign in with Google, it will ask choose your mail ID. So when you choose your mail ID, then OAuth token will execute. Google will send a OAuth token to the Ashok IT website. If OAuth token is received, then Ashok IT website will allow you to access directly. So you don't need to create an account in the Ashok IT website directly. So let me show you once again. So people want to access our website. In order to access our website, they should have a login. People want to access our website. In order to access our website, people should have the account. So, but people are not interested to create the account in the website, but still they want to access our website. Then for such kind of people, we are providing sign in with the Google option. For such kind of people, we are providing sign in with the Google Plus option. So when I click on sign in with the Google Plus option, a OAuth functionality is executing. Ashok IT website is redirecting the user to the Google sign in page. Here we are selecting the email ID with which mail we want to access. Once I select that mail ID, then Google performed my authentication. Google found that my credentials are valid. Then Google send one token to Ashok IT website. Once the token is received from the Google, Ashok IT website can trust this user now. Then Ashok IT is allowing the user to access the application. So that is what is happening here. Are you able to understand how this OAuth is executing now? Are you guys able to understand how this OAuth is executing now? Come on, guys. Are you able to understand how the OAuth is getting executed now? Are you clear with my point? How the OAuth is getting executed? Yes. Okay. So let me show you here. Let me show you here. This is our website. So customer want to access our website. Customer want to log in into our website. Customer want to log in into our website to download some notes. Customer wants to log in into our website to download the notes. Okay. Then customer don't have the account. So then what customer can do? They can use sign in with the Google option. Customer can use sign in with the Google option. When a customer use sign in with the Google option, then this website will redirect to the Google page. It will talk to the Google. Google will send login page for the customer. Then a customer will provide the credentials. Customer is not giving the credentials to Ashok IT. Customer is giving the credentials to Google. Google will validate those credentials and Google will send a token to the Ashok IT. So if the token is received from the Google, that token that Google is sending is called OAuth token. If OAuth token is received from the Google, then Ashok IT will allow the customer to access the application. Are you guys able to follow this? Here, not only Google, you can use Facebook login also. You can use LinkedIn login also. You can use GitHub login also. We have seen that in the hacker rank, it is supporting for multiple logins. If you have Google account, you can access hacker rank with that. If you have Facebook account, you can access hacker rank with that Facebook account. Similarly, LinkedIn account and GitHub accounts also. If you have any one account, then you can use HackerRank website without creating direct account in the hacker. So how these two applications are trusting the customer? So how Ashok IT will trust the customer? Customer will log into the Google. Once the login is successful, Google will send a OAuth token to the Ashok IT. If that token is received from the Google, then Ashok IT feels that, okay, he is a valid Google customer, then Ashok IT will allow that user to log in directly. Sign in with social media accounts to access applications. So if you want to allow the users to access your application by using their social media accounts, then we can go for this OAuth security. If you want to allow the users, if you want to allow the users to access your application, if you want to allow the users to access your application by using their social media accounts, then you can use this OAuth application, OAuth security. Are you guys able to understand? Are you guys able to understand what is OAuth and where we are using this OAuth? Are you able to understand what is OAuth and where we are using OAuth? Come on, guys. Now, so by using this OAuth, I want to develop one simple REST API. Okay. So what will happen is when you access my REST API, it will ask you to log in into your GitHub account. If you have the account in the GitHub, by using that GitHub account, you can access our REST API. So that is what we are going to create now. Okay. So we are going to develop Spring Boot application by using OAuth security. So for this, we are going to use some dependencies. So what are the dependencies we are going to use? First step is create a boot application with below dependencies. The first dependency, which is web starter. Okay. Second dependency, which is security starter. And third dependency, we are going to use OAuth client. Now, so here, how people can access our REST API? My REST API will be secured by using OAuth. So when you send the request to my REST API, it will ask you to log in into your GitHub account. If you log in into GitHub account, then if you are valid GitHub customer, then you can access our REST API. So for this, what is the process that we are going to follow? How we will integrate our REST API with the GitHub? How we are going to integrate our REST API with the GitHub? It is very simple. Okay. So in order to do this one, we need to create one application in the GitHub. In our GitHub account, we need to create one application for the client ID and client secret. Okay. So first step is create the boot application with the below dependencies. So let me create one boot application, new Spring Starter project. So let me create one project, which is Spring Boot OAuth authentication. Spring Boot OAuth application. Spring Boot OAuth application is available. Let us select some dependencies. Click on web dependency. Spring web dependency is required. And we need security dependency also. Spring security. And we need OAuth dependency also. Okay. Now I'm going to select OAuth client server. OAuth client dependency I'm adding. Click on next. Click on finish. My application is getting created. So in this application, one new dependency we have added. That dependency is called OAuth client dependency. Here I'm integrating my application with the GitHub accounts, guys. So if any customer having the account in the GitHub, they can access our application. How our application will be using GitHub login? For that, second step is available. We need to create one application in the GitHub. With that, we are going to get the secret ID and client secret. Those things we are going to configure in our project. Okay. What the client dependency is added, security starter is added, web starter is added. Okay, good. Now here I'm going to configure some properties. Okay, so the properties, what properties we are going to configure? For that, we need to get the client ID and client secret. So as we are going to integrate our REST API with the GitHub using OAuth, then in the GitHub under developer settings, we need to create one app. For that, we are going to get the client ID and client secret. Let me go to GitHub. Let me log in into my GitHub account. Let me log in into my GitHub account. So in the GitHub, if you go to your profile, there is an option called settings option is available. There is an option called settings option is available. Here I have given the navigation steps also. Login, profile. You go to your login into GitHub account, then go to your profile. Under the profile, there is a settings option. If you log in, you can see your profile. In the profile, you can go to settings option. Here settings option will be available. Once you go to the settings, left side menu will be available. In this menu, we have an option called developer settings. Developer settings option is available. Once you go to the developer settings, there is an option called OAuth apps available. OAuth apps concept is available. So these are the several OAuth apps I have created when I'm taking the OAuth sessions for the previous batches. Now, as you are going to integrate your REST API with OAuth security using GitHub, in the GitHub, under developer settings, we need to create one OAuth application. Okay, click on new OAuth application. You can give any name for the application. I'm giving SBMS 36 app. URL of this application, homepage URL of the application, localhost colon 8080, application description, callback URL. That means once you access this URL, it will redirect you to the GitHub login. Once you log in into the GitHub successfully, again it will call back the same URL. So here, when you send a request to the REST API URL, directly it will redirect you to the GitHub login page. So this is the home page URL I'm giving. When you hit this URL, when you send the request to this URL, GitHub login page will come. Once you log in into the GitHub successfully, then GitHub will send you a token to our application. Then application will be redirecting to this URL. So register this application. Once you register this application, it generated one client ID and we need to generate one client secret. Click on generate a client secret. For that, it is asking my password. I logged in. So client ID is available and the client secret is also available. Let me take this client ID and the client secret. So this is a client ID and client secret we need to configure in our YML file so that GitHub will be integrated with our application. Convert this properties file to YML file. Convert the properties file to YML file. In this YML file, we need to configure OAuth related configuration. We need to configure OAuth related configuration. Spring Security OAuth client application, which is using GitHub related information. So as we created one application in the GitHub, let us take the client ID from the GitHub and we generated a client secret. Let us copy that client secret and we give the client secret. That's it. So this is not required for every user who is accessing our application. At the application level, we will create one account in the GitHub to get the token and we are going to configure that client ID and client secret. Sir, our application will be accessed by multiple customers now. Do you think that multiple customers accounts should be created and we need to configure? No. This is only one-time process in the application. If you want to support for Facebook login, then In the Facebook also, developer settings, what app we need to create. If you want to go for Google, in the Google also you can go to developer settings, you can create what app. Same thing available in the LinkedIn also. GitHub login, Facebook login, LinkedIn login, Google login, several kind of options we can provide for the people to access our application. Are you getting my point? Okay. So here we have created one. Here we have created one application in the GitHub. So in that GitHub application, what app we created in the GitHub? For that application, GitHub is giving one client ID and one client secret. So what is the purpose of this client ID and client secret? It is used to inform that from which application the request is coming to the GitHub. Okay. So HackerRank people can also use GitHub. Our application also can use GitHub. So Nika, so there are so many applications available who can use the GitHub, right? So GitHub should understand the request is coming from which application. So that is the reason we created one WART app in our GitHub. For that WART app, we got the client ID and client secret. Okay. So any project who want to use GitHub login by using WART, they need to create one application in the GitHub and they need to get the client ID and they need to get the client secret. When our application is redirecting to the GitHub for user login, our application will send this client ID and client secret to the GitHub. GitHub will ask the user to login. Once user login with their credentials, GitHub will validate that and GitHub will redirect the user to this URL. Okay. So here we are configuring our homepage URL and we are configuring our callback URL. So this is the default URL of our application. When you hit that URL, it will go to the GitHub with our application client ID and client secret. Based on that, GitHub will ask user to enter the username and password. Once you enter your username and password, your credentials will be validated in the GitHub. Then if your credentials are validated in the GitHub, then GitHub is sending the callback URL here. So that means GitHub is telling that, boss, this user is logged in successfully. He is my valid customer. You can trust this guy. So if GitHub is telling that he is a valid customer to me, GitHub will redirect me to this URL customer can access. If your credentials are invalid with the GitHub, then GitHub will not allow you to redirect to this URL. Here we are not validating any token. GitHub is going to take care of that. User credentials are valid. If user credentials are valid, then you will be redirected to this URL. If user credentials are invalid, then that is not redirected to this URL. Same thing is happening in the HackerRank also, right? So if you go to HackerRank website, when you go to login, there is an option. You can log in with Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, GitHub. If you use Google, then what it will do? It is going to ask with which mail you want to access. So I will select one mail. My credentials are already saved in the Google. With those credentials, they are able to redirect me to directly into the dashboard page. So I'm not giving the credentials to HackerRank. I have given my credentials to GitHub, or I mean Google here. Google validated my credentials. Google redirected me to the dashboard page of the hacker. So same concept here. I'm going to develop one REST API. When you send the request to my REST API, it will redirect to the Google. It will redirect to the GitHub because I'm configuring the GitHub registration for the OAuth. So GitHub will ask you to log into your GitHub account. If you provide valid credentials, GitHub will validate your credentials and GitHub will redirect you to my given URL. So that is the configuration. That is the configuration that we are doing in the GitHub application. When we create the application in the GitHub, so these are the settings that we are configuring. So this is the name of my application. So SBMS 36 app I created. For this application, I generated one client ID and one client secret. That client ID and client secret I'm configuring in my YML file. That's it. Now let us create one REST controller, which we are trying to secure by using OAuth. Okay. Welcome REST controller. Welcome REST controller is available. Let us represent this class as a REST controller. For that, I am using @REST controller annotation. Let me write one method, public string get message. return. Let us map this method to a URL pattern. Get mapping slash URL. You got it? That's it. Now you see the steps that we have created, that we followed. We created one boot application with the below dependencies like web starter, security starter, and OAuth client. Then in order to integrate our application with the GitHub login, we created one OAuth app in the GitHub using developer settings. For that application, one client ID and one client secret generate. What is the purpose of this client ID and client secret? To tell that for GitHub, from which application the request is coming. Okay. Now, next one. Once these things are available, the client ID and client secret, we are going to configure the credentials of this GitHub application in our YML file like this. Okay. Once it is done, I created one simple REST controller and I am running my application. That's it. Now let's try to access this project. Refresh. Update Maven project. Force update. So in the class, I'm not writing anything for security and there is no separate security configuration, nothing. We have added OAuth client dependency and in the YML, we configured OAuth client registration details with the GitHub. So here OAuth client registration GitHub details I have configured. Suppose if I want to use Facebook client, Facebook, then similar to the GitHub, Facebook details we will configure. Refresh. Run our project. Slash is the URL pattern for our application. Run as boot application. Yep. Application is started. Application is started. Now let's try to hit this URL localhost colon 88. You observe carefully what is going to happen. Localhost colon 80. Empty URL pattern. When I use localhost colon 80 URL pattern, I'm sending a GET request for my REST API. When I send a GET request for my REST API, am I able to access my REST API or it is using OAuth and redirecting to the GitHub for login? Guys, localhost 80 I have accessed. If you see localhost 80 I have accessed. When I access localhost 80, is it allowing me to access my REST API directly or it is redirecting to the GitHub for the login? Guys, are we able to redirect to the GitHub login when we send the request to our REST API? It is asking to redirect. It is redirecting to the GitHub and click on authorize this. Okay. You are redirecting to the authorized application. Finally, I'm able to access my API. Finally, I'm able to access my API with the GitHub. Now, suppose if you see here, go to the github.com. In this, already my account is logged in. So let me log out from this account. I logged out from this, sign out from all accounts. I logged out from my GitHub account from this page. Now let us access once again. Go to new browser, localhost colon 80. So here the browser cache is available. That's why we are able to access this one. So let me delete all the browsing history. Let me delete all the browsing history. The cookies and all will be available. We need to delete everything. And let me restart my application. Let me restart my application. So when you access first time, if the GitHub is not logged in your browser, then it will ask you to log in into the GitHub with your credentials. If you give the valid credentials, then only GitHub will redirect you to the actual URL. Otherwise, GitHub will not redirect you to the actual URL. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Clear the console. Go to browser, localhost colon 8080. I'm sending the request to that URL. Now see here what it is saying. When I access my REST API URL, it is redirecting me to the GitHub. Suppose if I give wrong credentials, then who is validating my credentials? Our REST API is validating the credentials. Our credentials are validated by Google, that GitHub. So where the credentials are getting validated? Where the credentials are getting validated, guys? GitHub is validating our credentials. Now, so if I am giving this valid credentials, now if I click on sign in, now if my credentials are valid, then there is a two-factor authentication. GitHub is not allowing me to log in directly because my account is having the two-factor authentication. I got the code to my mobile. If I enter that code, I'm redirecting to my REST API. So we are able to secure our REST API by using OAuth security. We are able to integrate Spring Boot with OAuth. When you send a request to Spring Boot REST API, it is redirecting that user to the GitHub. So customer will log in into the GitHub. If customer logged in successfully to the GitHub, then customer will be redirected to our REST API. Our REST API is secured with the help of GitHub using OAuth. Are you able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? So here if you see in the GitHub, whatever the application that we have created, right? It is available. Optional features are available. So whatever the GitHub application that we created, the optional features are available here. And we can customize that configuration as well. Advanced features. Delete this OAuth application. Danger settings. Maybe it is free tier account, so we are not getting all the features here. One token is available, secret, logo, URL, homepage URL, optional features. There are no features to try right now. And go to advanced, delete this application if you don't want. Okay. So here we don't have much functionality. The reason we are using the free tier account. Maybe if you go for trial version, the more features will be available. The advanced features also will be available for our application. Good. Fine. So here we are writing one simple REST API method. Here we are writing one simple REST API method. That REST API method is secured, but we are not writing any code for securing that method. So here for our application, we have added OAuth client dependency and OAuth related information. The OAuth related client ID, client secret we configured in the YML. With this YML, the functionality is happy. With this YML, the functionality is happy. All right, guys. Perfect. If you want to get the token manually also, there will be some OAuth related classes will be available. OAuth client configuration, OAuth client token, OAuth client configuration. Programmatically also, we can ask the Google to give the token. Then you can store the token also and we can validate that token. But here, if you configure in the YML, directly it is going to take care of that. And one more thing also we can do, when this OAuth, this token is executed now, we can get some information also from the Google, like when you log in into the hacker rank, your Google, whatever the name you have given in the Google, that name is displaying in the hacker rank. That means Google is sending some information also to the hacker rank website, like username of the user, email of the user. So not credentials data, but the username they will send, that name we can display in our application also. So if you go to the hacker rank, when you use Google login, you can see your Google username in the hacker rank also. That means this hacker rank website is getting your data from the Google. That means the basic data, not everything. Google will not give everything for the hacker rank, your username and password and all, but basic your name they are going to give you to display in their application. Good. Now, the assignment that I'm giving for you today, I have shown you how to implement OAuth with GitHub. Now, I want you people to try implement OAuth with Spring Boot and Google. So I have shown you how the OAuth app we created in the GitHub and how we have taken client ID and client secret and how we need to integrate with the Google and how to get some username from the Google and display as a welcome message. So what is my requirement is now, so you need to write one method here. Whenever you send a request to this method, it should redirect to the Google login. Once you redirect it to the Google, you will log in into your Google account. Then if you log in successfully, Google will give a token for your application. Here, you need to fetch your username from the Google and you need to display welcome to hello, your username, whatever the name you have in the Google, you get that name and print that name in the response. Can we do that? Can you try that? So you understand what is my requirement? Assignment. Spring Boot with the OAuth using Google. Using Google account. Get username also from Google and display that in response. This is the assignment for today. I have shown you how we integrated OAuth in our application by using GitHub account. I have integrated this. Now I want you to try with a Google account. So create a Spring Boot application with OAuth client. Then you create one OAuth app in the Google. You do some research on that. You take the client ID, client secret of the Google account, and you configure in our Spring Boot application. So once your Google login is success, you need to get the username from the Google and you need to send that in the response. I want you people to try this task for today. Let's do some research, no issue. Let's do some research on this part. Good. Next one, the most important technique for microservices security, that is JWT. The most important technique for microservices security, that is JWT. JWT we are going to discuss in the next session. Okay. So guys, tomorrow I will not be available. Tomorrow I'm going to out of station. I will be back for Monday class. In the Monday session, we are going to discuss about JWT. So tomorrow there is a free workshop on the Jira. People who are not aware of Jira, those people can attend the Jira workshop tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. online workshop. Another faculty is going to take. Our next Spring Boot class will be there on Monday. In the Monday session, we are going to work with JWT. So once the JWT concept is completed, then our Spring Security topic will be completed. Okay, good. Fine, guys. Anybody having any questions, they can unmute and they can ask me now.
Can you show the same for Facebook in the same application?
For every application, the process is same. How we have created both app in the developer settings in the GitHub, right? Same thing we need to do in the Facebook, LinkedIn, Google also.
Okay, but now we have used Google. So when it is directly reassigned to GitHub, right?
We use GitHub now. I want you to try with that.
No, if we add both GitHub and Facebook, then it will directly reassign, or we have to create the
We need
in
to
controller.
customize the configuration. We need to customize the configuration. If you want to give both logins, right? We need to customize the configuration. Currently, we are giving one login.
So how to do that customization, sir?
In the YML file, we are going to configure that. In the UI, we are going to display the different buttons. When you click on Facebook login, it should be redirected to the Facebook URL. When you click on the LinkedIn login, it will be redirected to the LinkedIn page. So in the UI page, we are going to write that logic. And in the YML, for GitHub, client ID, client secret. For Facebook, client ID, client secret. For Google, client ID, client secret.
Sir, in real also like that, sir. Like means implementing OAuth seems to be pretty easy. I mean, I feel like it's pretty easy. So only we have to mention the client ID, secret ID in our properties file, and it. I mean, the basic things if you do, then it will work.
Correct.
In real time also.
Yep.
Redirect to the homepage URL difference, sir. In
Sir,
GitHub settings.
you can configure, sir, for which page you are configuring the homepage URL and callback URL. Callback URL means once your authentication is completed in the third-party application, so you want to redirect the customer to which URL that you need to configure as a callback URL.
Okay, homepage also we are configuring. What is the importance of that? I did not.
That means that which URL that you want to secure.
Okay, secure.
Sir, after successful login,
for this?
do we need to maintain any table to maintain
That's
the
up to
customer
you, sir.
information?
That's up to you. Once the customer is logged in with the third-party application, from third-party application, you can get some response. For logging purpose, you can store that data into one table also at what time the user is logged in, from how they logged in. Is it a direct login or is it a OAuth login that you can maintain in your table? That will be helpful for you for the analytics purpose in the future.
Okay,
Sir,
but
only
I have another
use
question
for
regarding this. So let's say the customer is logging for Facebook for first time. Okay, so he made some purchase. Okay, in the second time, if he use Gmail, so how the system, I mean, how our application will identify this is the same user?
So whenever we are Facebook user is logged into the Facebook will build the dashboard based on the customer email ID. Okay. So when you log in directly with your email or when you log in with the Google, if your Google email ID is also same, then based on your email ID, it will fetch your user ID, and based on that, it will fetch the data.
Okay, it will identify as a same user, right?
Correct. It has to recognize as the same user.
Same user.
Simple example. If you go to Ashok IT website also, if you know your username and password, you directly log in. You can see your dashboard with the course you purchased. If you log in with the Google also with the same Google account, you can see the same dashboard with the same course. So based on the email ID, we are going to fetch it.
Okay, there should be some common point, right?
Common
like email ID or mobile number.
Right, common point, either mobile number or email ID, common point should be there. And that should be unique in the table.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, the secret ID
is
never going to expire, right?
Secret ID, client secret, they are not going to expire, sir. This is one-time creation in the application. They're not going to expire.
Okay.
Sir, OAuth only used for authentication, right? Authorization we can't use, right? OAuth.
Authentication means authorization also, whenever you are trying to log in, the Google is asking, do you want to give the permission for accessing this application or not? So there you are giving the permission, that is the authorization. Whenever you
But
log in,
only one URL.
yeah, but if you want to authorize the multiple URLs, right, then you need to again write the security filter chain. We need to get the data from the Google, what data Google is giving for this one application.
Okay, Google is providing that details.
Good.
Sir, I mean,
Let's try with the Google authentication once by using WAUth, guys, so that we will see how we will create the developer application in the Google. How do we get the client ID and client secret for the Google? Then we can integrate that.
SAML, how to change it to SAML, sir?
SAML means?
Another WARP technique, right? SAML, there is instead of using JWT, we can do it with XML. So SAML is also people are preferring, companies are preferring.
I have not used that in my projects. So I need to check it. I have no idea.
Sir, you enabled two-factor authentication, right, sir? How to do with GitHub, sir?
In the GitHub settings, there is option, sir. You can do that. That is for additional security in the GitHub. So people, even though you know my username and password, you can't log in. So whenever you try to log in, I will get a OTP to my mobile.
Okay. So,
Sure.
one more last question, sir. GitHub will send a token to your application, right? Is there any validity? I mean,
that is what, sir. Here we are not capturing the token directly. We are directly call back the URL we are giving. If you want to get the token, you need to write some client logic to get the token and client information. Then you can validate that token. Okay, but here we are not capturing the token. Directly we are telling to the GitHub, if authentication is successful, you redirect the user to this particular URL.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Ashok. It's small issue in my clip. So when I'm starting with the security application, it automatically a password will HTTP password will be generated automatically. How I need to control this?
HTTP password is by, I mean, you mean to say default password is
Yes. HTTP based default password will be generated.
That authentication manager we have to change, sir. If you change that, then the default password will not be generated automatically.
Authentication manager.
Yeah, so we need, so in memory details we configure. So when you configure like that, the password will not be generated. If you don't configure any authentication manager or if any technique, then it is going to generate.
Hi Ashok, actually yesterday I was created that application. Our default password is generated. After configuring the properties, it will not generate it. It's once we override that username and login, now the default password will not generating. It is working properly.
Yeah, that's a starting time. I can observe that one. But yeah, when I'm creating a new application with new things, it automatically first time will generated.
After overriding that one, it will not generate.
So it look like a drawback, no?
Let me check it once, sir. I need to, sometimes due to cache also it is happening, sir. Yesterday
I tried for with repeatedly clean up and have an update, and even I restart a clip also. So I'm thinking I'm facing issue. I don't know anyone facing or not.
Okay, I will check that one, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yep, hello.
Sir, we log in with your GitHub account, right? If we try to...
No. You are confused. Whenever you access the application, you no need to log in with my GitHub account. You need to log in with your GitHub account. Suppose if you go to the Google, will you log in with their Google credentials or your Google credentials?
But the secret ID and the user ID
is not related to, that is not related to the clients. That is related to the application. That is not the client. That is for the application.
That means anyone can log in with their
That is the functionality. Anybody can log in with credentials, not with my credentials. I will not share my credentials to everybody, right?
Sir, actually, one who is not having the account on GitHub, so how he will access?
Definitely, you should have the account in the GitHub in order to access.
Sir, actually, when you access your application, it is directly redirecting to the GitHub. But in the Nika, it is going to home page and then it is giving the option like Google option.
Here it is a REST API. Their application is a web application. In the web application, UI will be available. So in the UI, you can click one button. When you click that button, it will go to that page. You can do like that. But here it is a REST API, direct response.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Can you cover the authorization part with the?
Let me check it, sir. How can we do this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good, guys. Please practice the security and work on the assignment with the Google OAuth integration. We will meet again on Monday. In the Monday session, we have our JWT topic. Thank you, guys.